welcome everybody back to Iron on Iron Bible Study. Today we are in the book of Judges. We're just finishing up the first chapter here, going into the second chapter. I'm going to pray, and Brother David, you can just go ahead and kick it off after that.
Okay.
Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, you are both fearful and awesome, oh Father, and we thank you for today, oh Father. We thank you for the opportunity to come together again and study your word. We thank you for the opportunity to have yourself revealed to us through the Holy Scriptures, oh Father. We ask, oh Father, that you enlighten us, oh Father, open our minds, increase our understanding, soften our hearts so that your word may get into us, oh Father, and make a lasting change. We ask this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, my brother. Well, let me get a little commentary on what we've read so far. And it says, if we start off and said, Joshua, the faithful associate of Moses and the leader of Israel during the conquest, is dead now. His victories ended organized resistance to Hebrew invasion. But Joshua did not exterminate the Canaanites. So now it was up to each tribe is now responsible to carry out the policy of extermination, which served as a divine judgment on the sinful practice of the Canaanites and as protection from the Canaanites' corrupting influence. And so, but then it said that the tribe of Judah responds to the challenge and continues to battle to purify Canaan. But even Judah is unable to drive out the Canaanites in the lowland because they have war chariots and all that. You know, these supposed to be the new. Most of the chariots were was a one-man chariot. You know, but these new chariots, some of them took three. You know, and it was a little bit far advanced than what they seen. But you know, in all of that, when God tells you to do something, then you do. So where is your faith in that? You know, you look at those people of the past when they went against, because these descendants of Moses, and I mean, and these stories were told from person to person, from generation to generation, how good God had been to them. And when they was faced with adversity, they prayed to God, and God delivered them each time. Now I don't know what happened to these people right here. They were, scared or whatever. Even doing when Judah said, "Well, we'll go." They asked God, and God said, "Well, I picked Judah." And then Judah asked his brother Simeon, "Come go with me." You know, where you faith at, brother? He didn't tell you to go. He told you to go yourself, the tribe of Judah. But, you know, that just shows you that even God done brought them this far, even through Joshua. But soon as a leader or a judge pass, they go back to their same ways of not believing, of a faithless race, you know. Yeah, so we up to the point now. The last part was we stopped at 30. We stopped at 30 in the first chapter.
Okay. Yeah. You want me to pick it up there at 30?
Yeah, pick it up 30 and go all the way to chapter 2.
All right. Neither did Zebulun drive out the Canaanites living in Kitron or Nahal, who remained among them, but they did subject them to forced labor. Nor did Asher drive out those living in Achor or Sidon or Alib or Axib or Habal or Ephek or Rehob. And because of this, the people of Asher living among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land. Neither did Naphtali drive out those living in Beth Shemesh or Beth Anaph, but the Naphtalites too lived among the Canaanite inhabitants of the land. And those living in Beth Shemesh and Beth Anaph became forced laborers for them. The Amorites confined the Danites to the hill country, not allowing them to come down to the plain, and the Amorites were determined also to hold out in Mount Horaz, Ajalon, and Shabin. But when the power of the house of Joseph increased, they too were present to forced labor. The boundary of the Amorites was from Scorpion Pass to Selah and beyond. So we see here that these last tribe of Israel, not only did they not push them out completely, but for the most part, they didn't push the Canaanites out at all. What we're going to see is that the Canaanites are going to get absorbed into the Israel's whole culture. They're going to intermarry, and of course, it's going to come with a lot of problems for them later on. This is one reason why they couldn't get on one accord and keep out all the Baal worship and the pagan worship that was going on in the land of Israel, because there was so many of them had already intermarried with the Canaanites and had them living close to them. So of course their cultures were kind of tied together at the ankle. So they had a lot of trouble trying to walk straight. We also see that the Amorites here were holding their ground, and this is some of the people that were they were atrocious to God, and they weren't able to push them out at all. And of course, we're gonna see that they become a major problem to the Israelites. So the whole thing is for them not completing this what God had asked them to do. It was kind of like they broke the covenant with God because He gave them the land, and they were to occupy the land fully and push those people out fully, because this was going to be God's base of operation as far as building Israel into a mighty nation that's going to be the centerpiece of the world, and showing them what God's glory is, and is unable to do it because they had so much of the Canaanite culture still there.
You know, one thing about it looks at to me is that it goes back to me. It looked back, when Moses encountered God, he encountered the bush, the burning bush, and God was telling him what he wanted him. He was chosen. God said he had chose him, and he would tell him the task that he chose him for, and what he wanted him to do for his people. And Moses was going along and asked a question, and he said, "Who should I tell them sent me?" And he said, "You tell them I am who I am. I am sent you." And and Moses was steady asking questions, but he was asking the question, but then he told God at the end of it, he told God that can you what about my brother Aaron? His he speak more eloquently than I do. I'm not confident what I'm, but God gave him not only what to say, he was saying what would happen if they don't do what he gave him the cane that would turn to the snake. I mean, all kinds of plagues and stuff that he gift him with. But he still was not confident. And that really made God kind of angry. That I'm giving you all of this and your faith is still not there. First of all, who do you think you're talking to? The bush just don't burn in your realm of the world. So his faith wavered. But the one thing it shows us, Brother Griff, is about leadership, man. If the leadership is not strong, man, how can you expect those behind you to follow?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And we see it every time that they didn't have a leader. They had a weak leader that they will falter. And I mean, I think it was also the leader reminding them of how good God was.
Exactly.
Joshua will point back and say, look what God brought us from. They're like, yeah, you're right. He brought us out of the desert, brought us out of Egypt, he brought us to this land. But without somebody there to constantly remind them, hey, this is the glory of God. This is what He brought us from. The consonants become weak, and they will falter all the time.
And because of Judah, just think now, when God told, and they prayed and they asked God who would be the first to go, and he said, I chose Judah. And there was a reason for him choosing Judah, because Jesus was linked to that lineage, and David and Solomon. So the thing is, though, I chose you, but if you had faith in me and your faith showed them, oh, just think. I mean, they probably would have did everything. I ain't gonna say probably. They would have did everything God told them was going to happen. All those people that they actually left, they would have destroyed everything. They would have did exactly what God told them would happen when you listen to Him and you go by His word. You wouldn't have had these remnants, because remnants, just like you said, gonna cause trouble. because these people will band together and go against you as long as you leaving them behind. Still you thinking that just because you got them doing labor, and that's gonna be the end of your problem. But then you get to hanging out with them and marrying them and all that. You going against God's
Mm,
law then.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we gonna go home. And you anything else you want to add to that, bro, Griff?
No, I think that's about sums it up. We can see right now that they didn't fully do what God had asked them to do, and we're gonna see the consequences of that going forward.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go on into chapter 2, and I'm going to read chapter 2, verse 1 through 4, and I'm reading out the New Maximized Living Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The angel of the Lord at Bochim. And it speaks about Bochim. They said this names mean crying and weeping.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says another thing about judges. They said they were not actual court judges of law, but leaders of people in times of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
God had just put them in charge of that. But anyway, because they hadn't actually went and asked for kings yet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we start off with they said the angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up from Egypt and led you to the land I promised to give your ancestors. I said I would never break my agreement with you, but you must not make an agreement with the people who live in this land. You must destroy their altars, but you did not obey me. How could you do this? Now I tell you, I will not force out the people in this land. They will be your enemies, and their gods will be a trap for you. After the angel gave Israel this message from the Lord, they cried loudly. So they named the place Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. Well, that actually that paragraph reads and says exactly what it means. When
Mm-hmm.
you don't follow instructions, when you don't follow instructions to the letter from your leader, which is God, actually, that's your leader, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't do exactly what he tell you to do, then everything that befalls you is happened because of your choice. And soon as they didn't do it, and he told them what was going to happen, since they didn't do it, everything, I'm not gonna take them away from you. They're gonna be a snare to you always
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't
Mm-hmm.
do what I told you to do. And they're gonna be a thorn in your side. And you can tell when it's just like when you do wrong, man, you want to cry then,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and whine. But
Mm-hmm.
you could have prevented all that, but doing what you're supposed to be doing. Want to add anything to that, brother Greg?
Well, just going back to like we had said earlier about when it was written. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is this is probably written by Samuel. A lot of people believe it was written by Samuel, and
Mm-hmm.
he's telling them exactly why they were in the position they were in. Because
Yeah.
at this point they decided, hey, we're gonna ask for a king. Give us a king. But at the same time, man, look what happened when he gave you judges. You couldn't even do right when he gave you judges.
Mm-hmm.
What thing make you think that it's gonna be better if he give you a king? What you need to do is just be obedient and do what God asks you to do.
There you
And
go.
then you won't be in this predicament that you're in with all these people surrounding you making war on you all the time, and you just cower, and now you need somebody to come protect you. You want a king. So we see the pre-incarnate Christ here too when they
Mm-hmm.
speak of the angel of the Lord, and it could have been speaking through a messenger. It could have been him in pre-incarnate form, but he's bringing that message to them. You guys have broke the covenant, and
Mm-hmm.
and and uh God takes it seriously when you break a covenant. That's why you told them that they shouldn't make a covenant with the people of this land, which they're going to end up doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you make that covenant, you can't break it. You're gonna have to stick to it.
There you go.
Mm.
All right, brother Griff, I want you to read verses 6 through 9.
All right, verses 6 through 9. And I'll read out the NIV. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to his own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua's son Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath Heres in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. So we see the Nun that was the what could be considered one of the first judges there as he died, and we see that they tell you that as long as Joshua or some of the elders were around, that they follow the commandments of the Lord. But so I see two things here. One thing is that the importance of the elders, because they can look back through the horn of time and see all the goodness that God has done and relate to the youth who are focused on right now that God would bring us through. And I also see the naivete of youth that they can only see what's in front of them. They can't look back and see the goodness of what God done because they hadn't had a chance to live through that. And the only way they can experience that is through the elders.
I look at this whole situation, man, and I look at us in this time, in this life. And every time I read the Bible, man, I always relate it to what's going on now. And and I think that is a big part of what we're going through in this city, man. That a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us as older generation, man, we didn't reach back, man, and touch these young folks like we should have. We didn't reach
Agreed.
back and partake wisdom upon them, man, because
Mm-hmm.
we looked at it as that's not my family member. But that ain't
Mm-hmm.
what God told you. That ain't what Jesus did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of you saying that's not my family member, but you know that brother didn't have a dad there, and you had a relationship with him. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying a relationship. It don't have to be a physical relationship, but you work with him, and you
Mm-hmm.
know of his situation or her situation, and you try to partake words of wisdom with them, man. That's how I came up. I mean, it was older guys always giving me something, man. Always
Mm-hmm.
giving me a nugget, man. And that's how it was. So where did that fall off at? And I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
and I told my wife one time, I said, I see it more with the men are saying something than the ladies. But that used to is like I said, like the ladies in their 30s, 5 to 50, in that bracket, they leave it to the women that's 60 and 70 and 80. A lot of the mothers
Mm-hmm.
of the church still,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that it, not that they don't have wisdom, but what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
They gave it to you. We have to pass this thing along, man, and make the generation better. Now the generation is in chaos now,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to look back and say, what did I do to help? And if you come up with nothing, you need to go to work.
Yeah, yeah, agreed,
Because see,
agreed.
one thing I said about this, bro, Griff, if you don't, and you think you stand in a neighborhood that may not be crime ridden, it
Mm-hmm.
will.
Agreed, agreed. I think a big part of it, man, is we got into a generation of self.
Mm-hmm.
I got mine. I ain't worried about nobody else getting theirs.
Man, I
And
believe that.
I'm where I am, and I'm not gonna reach back and try to help nobody else. I'm just gonna try to stay where I'm at and
Mm-hmm.
protect what I have. So I mean, we get to. I think we what's called isolationism. We get to the point where we want to just be isolated to ourselves, and we don't. We're either afraid or
Mm-hmm.
we're too complacent to actually try to reach it up back to the youth. And of course, and we see what happens when that happens when they don't have that example to follow. They don't have that word that says that God is good and look what He brought me through.
Mm-hmm.
He can do the same for you. We see what happened. They fall by the way of the Asherahs. They find a Baal to worship. And that's what's happening right now. They have all type of little gods and little religions that they find a part of because we figure we got ours, and they're gonna have to get it the best way they can get it.
I mean, because you look out there, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got all
mm,
TikTok, you got all these platforms, man. The people they actually worshiping that mess. You know,
mm,
anything
mm,
because so why are they reaching out to something that they really don't know about and been led
mm,
and they actually being led astray? Because well, I mean,
mm,
what is the word? If they've
mm,
been getting the word, because one thing about me, man, I was not always this person, but I can always say that Bible was always there in the house, and mom was
mm,
teaching from that. My
mm,
grandmama was teaching from that. I may not have worried about not being a good listener at the time, but it did sink because look at me
mm,
now.
mm,
And
mm,
I'm not actually a people person.
mm,
I'm that person that like to be on my own little island, man.
mm,
But
mm.
but when I but when I pray and ask God, what can I do? Then He said, well, you have to do something that's gonna make you uncomfortable.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
asked me, so I
Mm,
have to get out there. So that just show you that how much we have to do, man. You know,
mm.
we have to get out there and do the work, man.
Yeah, yeah, because there's a lot of competing noises. There's a lot of folks out there say, "Hey, I'm spiritual." Hey, the
Yeah.
ancestors got me. So there have to be more people out there that say, "Hey, this is the truth is here in the Bible."
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot of competing noise out there.
Lot.
And like you said, we may be, and I think we are a generation who are will rather be by ourselves, or what I'm saying, or would rather just not be bothered with it.
Exactly.
But we have to get out our comfort zone, and venture back into this world. And it's hard, man, because everybody built up their own little islands, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody in their own little sphere, and you have to make noise.
I'm gonna say this right here, Bro Griff. Then we go on to the back to the chapter. But this right here is important to the chapter anyway, because anything that relates to this world, because that's where we at now. This relates to what we reading about. But I think Jesus is the perfect example, man, of what he did
Mm,
with those disciples. All of those people, man, had a sinful background,
mm,
but that did not mean that he could not use them, which he
mm,
did. But it was only 12. It
mm,
was only
mm,
12. And he
mm,
allowed that 12. See, sometimes we look and we talk to a group, okay? But my thing is this right here. If you got one
mm,
that you can get to, and
mm,
you teach that
mm.
one that if anything that I gave you is good for edification, if you can eat of it, if you can think of it, if it can be a part of you, share it.
Yeah.
Share it with somebody in your age group. I think that's how
Mm,
you reach it, man.
yeah.
A lot of times we may get disappointed because you didn't reach the whole group. But if you got what did God say? Wherever two or more are gathered, I'll be in the midst of
Mm,
it. If
mm,
that ain't word for praise right there, you ain't got to
mm,
have a whole group. One or two will do.
mm,
All right,
mm,
I'm gonna get back. We're gonna get back and I'm gonna read from chapter, I mean from in the second chapter, verse 10 through 14. And like I said, it's coming from the New Maximized Bible. Uh It said the people disobeyed. After those people had died, which is talking about Joshua and all of them, their children grew up and did not know the Lord or what he had done for Israel. So they did what the Lord said was wrong, and they worshiped the Baals and the idols. They quit following the Lord, the God of their ancestors who had brought them out of Egypt. They began to worship the gods of the people who lived around them, and that made the Lord angry. The Israelites quit following the Lord and worshiped Baal and Ashtoreth. The Lord was angry with the people of Israel, so he handed them over to the robbers who took their possession. He let their enemies who lived around them defeat them. They could not protect themselves. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That let him marry when when God pull that fortress of protection away from around you, man, you
Mm-hmm.
just sinking. Then you in sinking sand. Then everything going against you. You know how
Mm-hmm.
people say, I can't get nothing right. Your name need to be can't get right because ain't nothing working towards you what you want to do now. You know, and it's just show you, man, when God is not in what you're doing, it's not gonna be right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
ever be right. You know, you're gonna always continue to hit that wall, that proverbial wall that you can't knock down, that you try to do it with your. I sent out these spiritual messages, and then one that was talking about when you're trying to do it yourself, you're gonna always fail. God has to be in the midst of everything you do. You need to consult Him in everything. And I don't know if that generation didn't talk to each one of them, but I'm quite sure that there was some kind of literature, some
Mm-hmm.
kind of books that you could have read and found out what was going on, or you just probably wasn't listening. Because back in somebody always had a word that
Mm-hmm.
when your grandparents always talked about what your elders did. They always had been a wealth of information, But I guess the people didn't seek that, and then you want to reach out and touch and want to be with everything. You think everything is good. No, everything is not good, and now you seeing that everything
Mm-hmm.
is not what you thought it was going to be. But then you have to remember, God told you that. You want to add anything to it, bro, Griff?
I think this showed. Well, it's God knew that when they got into the land, that they would needed to have all these other distractions wiped away,
Mm-hmm.
because the generation that Joshua was in, they grew up in the desert. They grew up with, it was just the Israelites there, and they're one on one with God. So that's why they had such a strong, a strong faith, because that's all they had to rely on when they were in the desert was God, and
Mm-hmm.
and, and they had strong communion with God when they in the desert. But once they got into the promised land, God knew, unless all the distractions were gone and they could live in a society where it was just them again, and they were in close communion with God, it wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got this new generation who didn't know the desert, they didn't know the struggle, who's growing up in this world of distraction, and what do you get? You get a falling away. And again, that's where we are right now. Uh we grew up in a generation, what I'm saying, with in a lot of households, church was mandatory. Even if it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't mandatory, you had a great saturation of church. It
Wow.
was it was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was a saturation of it. And even with that, you know, uh, we have a lot in our generation that fell away, but we had a strong core that didn't. But that core wasn't passed along to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got a generation that grew growing up in distraction with no core of church to speak of. And I mean, this chapter right here is right where we are right now.
Oh man.
This new generation. This is where
And
we,
being judged.
yeah. So we need to come up with some judges. Though we need some judges to come through.
You need some help, boy. Somebody send out a what is a SOS?
SOS. Pat, you got something you want to say, man? I know you're driving.
How y'all doing? Yeah, I was just thinking about what y'all was saying, but a lot of times we feel like that nobody can help this generation, but we have three strong guys right here on this program, and
Mm,
all we have to do is pray that prayer and ask
mm,
God and say, Lord, But once you pray that prayer, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna cost you something.
mm,
It's gonna cost you something. But I don't believe that God equipped us with all this information for us to just, talk about it.
mm,
I think just like you said, we are kind of like David, ain't gonna force it on us, but all we have to do is say, Lord, free me up so I can be used by you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. When you pray that prayer, 10,000 walls gonna evaporate, and then God is gonna give us that fountain. And just like you were saying about our generation, yeah, I mean, I'm the perfect example, man. Right now, I don't want to do nothing. When the Saturday come and the weekend come, man, please don't bother me. But more and more, I have to renew my mind, and I have to understand that, hey, sometimes I have to go some places I don't want to go, you know? Because there's definitely a need, man. And just like you saying, man, all of these distractions, ain't nobody caring about the Bible, man. You can go to church and never hear the Bible really talk or Jesus even mentioned. And everybody will come out there happy and high-fiving each other.
And never look in the book at all.
Right. All right, let's sit down. And I'll say this. I didn't say nothing to that gentleman on Saturday, but him smoking cigars and drinking Jameson didn't sit well with me at all. That didn't sit well with me at all, him being a pastor of the church. I didn't have time to have that conversation with him. But no, but that just show you how comfortable we are, man. Yeah, man, I relax and don't care about telling nobody that.
Hey, look, hey, bro, Pat, I said on this end, you don't need your lying no way, because God already know your heart.
Ain't no need to lie, but you ain't got a broadcast.
Hey, what they said, tell the truth, and the truth should set you free. I don't know about setting you free, but tell it.
Tell the truth, and the truth will ruin a generation. Ruin a generation, because I looked at Dave and I said, did he say Jameson? And so I looked up Jameson. So I won't be dumbfounded. I'm just Jameson. Maybe that's something new.
Yeah, I was wondering what Jameson was. I guess that Jameson 08 or something, though they think they call that. But anyway.
It was some Irish whiskey that came up, and he probably got a cognac cigar. But that just goes to show you, just like in Joshua's days, oh man, these surrounding communities coming in with all these winds of doctrine, and we're adapting to this stuff. You know, a lot of people don't. The way the preachers preached back in the day, it didn't sit well. You know, hellfire and brimstone, you going to hell. And so when that new generation, that Highland came in, and he had a better message. Oh, you mean to tell me I can get high and still come to church? Oh. Sign me up, right? It caught fire, and now you got this fella here who's a pastor who has no problem saying a little Jameson and a nice little cigar on a Saturday afternoon is just my way of, you know, making everything make sense. I'm
done. Anything else? Anybody want to add anything else there? But we're going to get back to the scriptures. Brother Griff.
All right. Where you left off at? 15?
15 to 17.
All right. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hands of these raiders. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshiped them. Unlike their fathers, they quickly turned from the way in which their fathers had walked, in the way of obedience to the Lord's commands. So we saying again, you know, this Samuel show you exactly what's going on in his time. No, he was the last judge, you know. You know, he showed them, hey, you know, God, it wasn't just me. God sent y'all many judges, and y'all wouldn't listen. You wouldn't listen. You'll stiff neck people. You know, you walk right for a few steps and then you stumble back 5 steps. You know.
Yeah, we still struggling.
We
We
still
still
struggling.
struggling.
We
Yeah,
still struggling.
trying to get there, man, and just it's things that we still struggling with, and I think the first option is to get on them knees, man, and pray. Ask God
Mm-hmm.
to guide you, man. If you astray from the straight path, man, to get you back to His life, you know.
Yeah.
And it's hard, man, but it is what it is. Just like Brother Pat said, you got a whole lot of things that you may want to be doing, and
Mm-hmm.
and 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 praying may not even be one of you. Sometimes we actually use that as we wake up in the morning and go to bed, and those that I know I watch people sometimes, man. I like watching folks, man. And some people they be struggling to say their blessings before they eat. It's
Mm-hmm.
just because somebody else is standing around them, that
Mm-hmm.
that that really wouldn't be a problem if they were by themselves. But just because
Mm-hmm.
somebody is standing near them, and I'm like, wow, man, And
Mm-hmm.
I remember a brother told me one time, he said, man, I seen you and your wife. He said, who was that young lady? I told my stepdaughter. He said, I seen y'all at Southern Hands, man. He said, you know what stood out, man? I said, stood out? What stood out? He said, man, y'all, yeah, but before y'all got to eat, all y'all grab hands and pray. I said, well, that's what we do. He said,
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't have stood out, but yeah, that's what we do. He said, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't nobody else doing that. Hey, we don't worry about nobody else.
We do what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that rub off on somebody. But that's one thing about in the world we live in today, man. Just because that those people didn't receive that from their ancestors or from their grandparents or from their direct mother and father, that doesn't mean that you, as their spiritual person, can't give that to them. Can tell them how good God has been in your life. Because a lot of times people like stories, man. When you show, I don't mind telling them where I came from and the person that I'm growing to be and the person that God is growing me to be now. And people
Mm-hmm.
don't think people forget that, you know, because they thinking that wow, man, this guy right here did all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just keep telling your story, man. Keep bringing God, man. Don't never give up on that.
Yeah, it's important. It's important. And one more thing that Pat was saying, man, and I guess this is what this section here is saying, that people would go along pretty good when the message is easy, when a guy was with them and let them win and beat their foes and give them the land, they were going along pretty good. But now it's getting kind of rough, you know. Now you really got to show your faith, man. When God tell you, "I'm not going to be with you,"
Mm-hmm.
and you really got to try to turn your face back and repent, man. And we'll see how long it lasts, man. With these first couple judges that's going to come through here.
All right, I'm gonna read from 18 to 19. Read from the New Maximize. Uh, okay. When their enemies hurt them, the Israelites cried for help. So the Lord felt sorry. The Lord felt sorry for them and sent judges to save them from their enemies. The Lord was with those judges all their lives. But when the judges died, the Israelites again sinned and worshiped other gods. They became worse than their ancestors. The Israelites were very stubborn and refused to change their evil ways. And not only was you hard headed, but you were stubborn too. I remember my grandma used to say about that stubbornness. They're gonna get you in a lot of trouble, son, about that stubbornness. But now God felt sorry, all that hollering and wailing. I guess he just had a stomach. But let me help him out, please. Yeah, what you do? Soon as you get to help, and it's like that, it's better now. I can go back and do what I've been doing. Oh man, that's not part of the plan right there. You got to want to do better because you already felt the affliction when you're doing wrong. So what makes you not, it's different when somebody tell you, because I said it, bro, Griff, when somebody is telling you, just like we all had, we most of all of got kids that I know of, and you tell them what would happen when you don't do the right thing. And then they go out and do wrong. Now, it may be because even though you telling them, that hadn't happened to me. So now I need to experience it. And a lot of times people say experience is the best teacher. Not quite. Not quite. Because if you listen, that which happened can be happening to somebody else that didn't listen.
So
but you listen, it didn't happen to you.
You can learn the lesson without getting hurt, huh?
Oh man, give me that lesson, man. Especially if they come about something dangerous, And these folks were doing everything to you all, man. And then, but you didn't listen to God. So God sent judges to help you out, to lead you in the right way, to lead you to the straight path. And as soon as the judge died, well, he ain't looking now. He gone. Yeah, well, do. But it reminds me back at Moses again. Soon as Moses had left the camp to go to cuss up with God, there goes some rebel rouser jumped up. Hey, he gone now. See, he done left y'all here, and everybody want to turn against him. We need to go back and pray to this and that. That's how then they started looking back at what they did when they was in Egypt. You hope you looking at what the taskmaster and all them folks that were beating your butt and making you work with no water and no straw. You had to be a brick. Forget all about that. But they just show you, man. They used to say this saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. Sometimes your knucklehead butt, when you ain't got no leader in the house, or when that man is not there, then you thinking that you can go over the mom's head and do what you want to do. But it doesn't happen like that. God hears, sees, and feels everything. Even before you think it, he already know what you're going to do. So don't think you're getting away with anything. All right, bro, you want to add anything to that?
And I mean, that was another reason God just wanted them to have all the Canaanites out the land, because he, of course, God knew that they gonna get that across the fence syndrome. Things ain't going good for them. They looking over there at the Canaanite family. He prospering over there, praying to his God. My God to turn his back on me. Let me go over here and pray to this Canaanite guy for a little bit. Maybe I can get some of this green pasture. And God knew that would happen. He knew that would happen. That's why he wanted all the temples and all the altars out the land, But of course they didn't succeed in cleansing the land like God wanted them to.
But that's if you follow the rules, you got I always think about that, man. They had God in their midst. We got to pray. God is sending judges and angels and messengers and prophets, man. And I always look at that, man, and them folks were still hard-headed. Then I think about us, man. How would you be if you know that this person was sent by God to help you and to lead you? Would you still be hard-headed, or would you be a believer? How would your faith walk look then? That you know that this person is from God, telling you exactly what you need to do. Or you started looking at his past, or looking at her past. A lot of time, man, a person is giving you a message. And I'm gonna say this right here, because I remember this guy named Jerry used to tell her, he was talking that Bible, and I guess it was the way he was bringing it. We used to run, man. Here come no crazy Jerry, But I mean, you looked at, and I think the biggest thing, we looked at his past. We didn't look at who he was then. We looked at the stuff that he used to do. He used to be a womanizer and got after all the women, drinking and drugging, And I guess at the time, we were young, about 12 and 13 years old. We didn't look at that person that was able to change, because we didn't know God. If we knew God, we'd know that person can change, that God can change anybody, that when you give yourself to him, that he will make you a new creature, a new person. Look at Saul. He had Saul prophesize, and then what them folks said, wait a minute, is that Saul prophesizing with the people? They were looking at his baggage then. Anything add to that, Brother Griff?
No, that's good.
All right, Brother Griff, we're gonna finish up that then, man. That's you take 20 to the end of that.
All right. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant, and I laid down for their forefathers, and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel and see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their forefathers did. The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. All right. Now we see, that they kind of set their own pace now. That for them not keeping the covenant, that God said He's not going to drive the nations out before Him anymore, and we see that's still a problem. All the way up into to Israel was sent into exile. Even beyond that, that now they were always living in. I guess you could say to this day, Israel living in hostility to the nations around them because they didn't follow that covenant.
Yeah, that's it, man. We got to continue to do what we need to do. Just as it is happening then, it's happening now. We're gonna go on. I guess we can go on into we got about what, 9 minutes?
We
We're
got
going
9
into
minutes.
chapter 3.
Why don't we say that for next week, man?
Okay.
We can start fresh in chapter 3 next week.
Okay.
Anything going on? We enjoyed the time we spent with you Saturday, man. It was a very, 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 very good time, man. I like that the second speaker, the DeVoe. I enjoyed him a lot.
Yeah, he was. Everybody had like the first guy was kind of like a student teacher. And I get a second teacher was kind of like a counselor, and then the third one was the preacher.
Yeah. I can see that. It was I enjoyed it. It was a good time, man. I think Brother Davion, the church anniversary is coming up at the end of this month. I'm sure the next time you on here, give us the exact date of what's happening with that. Other than that, I don't know anything else going on. I know we plan to attend that his pastor's anniversary is going to be during service.
I'm gonna make you happy. He brought that up the other day.
But other than that, I think everything's just going smooth, just rolling on into this fall weather. We're looking to do some things, join up with some people and get some activities started. Our last I guess you call our last study is up on YouTube. I didn't post it in the group chat, but it is up. I'm trying to get this one up as quick as possible. Other than that, man, everything's good. Pat, can you hear us? You want to pray us out? Or you able to?
Y'all ready?
We are ready.
All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your many, 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 many blessings that you have restored upon us. So many times we take it for granted, Lord, how good you are. But help us to be able to reflect on, Lord, where we come from and where you brought us to, and how that you're able to do anything but fail. And I pray that you would bless each and every individual brother here, bless our families, bless the family of the other brother who couldn't make it, and bless all of our church families to help us that we may fall in love with your word, Lord. We may fall in love with what you would have us do while you have left us here on this earth, and help us that in everything we do, we will try our earnest to do it unto your glory. In Jesus' name we do pray until we meet again. Amen.
Amen. All right, brother. See y'all next week.
All right. Be blessed, brother.